Okay, so yesterday we did actually we understood how to call or create APIs, and we did everything from Postman. Fine, that was just an overview how we can create the APIs. So initially we understood that we can give multiple names like this, whatever you want, but ultimately it's the request type. That's how Spring Boot understands it and calls the APIs, and we understood it through this example. So it was get, delete, post, and put, and every single endpoint has same call ///. So that means it might be a my ambiguous call, but it didn't happen because of request, a different request type. Okay, now let's proceed with request parameters. Request or call this query parameters. Okay, so it will be used same as we have path variable, but in differently slightly different way. So it goes like, again, I'll create a simple method, public void. I'm not returning anything from this endpoint. Void, let's say get user, or let's say get string. Simple. We have multiple ways, and once you I said that you are using map, and then don't use it for initial if you're not sure how to use. So keep it simple. Of course that will work,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Okay.
but initially keep it simple. So let's see how it works. So I'll keep it this and uh, my string, just giving it, and now I'll say at request param string, then str. That's my variable name, and here I'll say sys out my string. Oops, come on, str. Okay, so my endpoint is ready. Nice. Let's run the application, and because we don't need all these, I'll right click and close them. Okay, and now since I know only we have just one endpoint, I mean the only way to trigger this application, this is the one. Run as application. Okay, it is up. Now in future if I have to run this application again, no need to search this file and right click. Again, this is beneficial when other projects are not there or they are in a closed state. You can use this green button as well. You can see when I hover it says run Spring Boot basic application already running, and if I click on this I can see list of something which is not here. So this is the one. So in future if I have to run this application, I can just click on this run button, but make sure that the very first should be your application which you're running. That's why I never recommend use this green button unless all the project in your Eclipse workspace are in a closed state. Okay, so fine, application is up. Let's try this my string, and we are done with the browser. Now every API will test on Postman. So get this question mark my string, my bad, my string question mark. Oops, str request. Okay, and we are getting data on our console. My string equals to data. Or let's say something else. Let's say um, MySQL request sent, and here we're getting it MySQL. So this is the endpoint till slash my string, and then str equals to myself. Yeah, Vamsi, now you can ask your question. What you were saying earlier.
Yeah. Pankaj, why it has to be the endpoint? It has to be the different way for only for query parameter, but not for the others.
Path variable is just a straightforward way to give it dynamically. See, this is path variable slash. Now you're asking like how A is written this way and B is written that way. Like both have a different uh, vocabulary stuff, and we pronounce it differently. They have a different place. Likewise, if you want to put a different where you want to use key and values. When we, if you remember when we were doing servlets, so there we were have a form, and we tend to click a form and I can see data is there. That
Right.
URL exposes user name and password. Everything was on URL. It wasn't a key value player. By default, form takes your data in a form, query parameters. So it takes your form name, form field name as a key and value what you're entering as a value. So that happened because
Okay.
of get request. So get do what? It takes your data and expose on a URL. This is the actual URL. So it's the way
Okay.
to show or get or collect data from the user or from the other code. Path
So if
variables is
we
hmm?
if we write only just my string and uh, then run it, if it
No,
will not give, right?
yeah, let me show you this as well. So execute it and says bad request
For bad request. Okay.
because the way you request it's wrong. Let's try. Somebody also asked me about required. Huh? I'll say false. Okay, let's stop the service. We did some Java change. And again, all services are closed. I can use this green button. So I know when I click on green, only this project will get triggered. Okay, started. Going back to browser. Request again. And see, this time it is not asking. I said
Yeah.
it is not required. It's not mandatory. So that's the impact
Oh,
of making
okay.
it
Okay.
it is required or not. So
Okay.
if I remove, or by default it is true. It is required. Or you can, if you want to have a better control, make it this required true. Stop the service and run again. So this time required is true. That means we are supposed to pass this variable str or parameter in our request. Now if I send it again, it will again give me 400 issue, 400 code. Control Z, request sent, everything is fine. So that's how it works. And let me give you this message as well from the code. Even Eclipse also says required request parameter. It says required request parameter says str for method type string is not present. So when you make it mandatory, this is what we get. So initially we wrote this. I hope request parameter is clear. And again, there are multiple ways to take it. We just saw a string. You can pass string integer. You can pass the whole object, or you can also pass multiple collections or parameters. Like we have used map, so you can also do that. But again, uh, that's not a correct way. But yeah, it is possible. Usually, if you have to pass that much data, think about who will pass a list of collection or something in URL. URL will look so messed up, and we're not supposed to do that. We are ultimately exposing our data in URL. So if it is required, if you have to pass something, use post request. Post will take your data in the body, request body. We saw there are two things in the request, header and body. So pass all data in the body. Don't pass in your URL. So URL just for simple stuff where you just want to uh, ask something, where you want to get some record on the base of something, then you can do that. Okay, so mostly when we are using request parameter, make it small, not don't pass huge amount of data in your request. It is not ideal solution or against the convention of REST APIs. But yeah, you are free to use if you want. It's possible. You can do that. But again, not suggested. Okay, so this is the request we did from front end. I mean, front end means the postman we have used. We did this and we got error. We did this and we got this error because of this is it's not this one. It is required. Oops. Okay, and how typically a request parameter looks like? You have to pass a request parameter. I think I should do this in next mint. It is better now here. Save, save, and here it should be in simplest way that how to use it. Okay, so we are done with the basics of endpoints. Today we will try to do some database operation through uh, CRUD operations, or the method we just learned in last 2 days. Okay, this is the way, and tool set request sent. This is how we request it, and since we are printing in console, it will get printed on console. Here, request sent. Okay, and obviously you can change the return type from void to anything into a string, and you can get that data on your postman here in response section. So you guys already know this, and this is the output. Fine. So that's how we request query parameters. Okay, let's move to next section. Paint classic third. Okay, so now we have idea how we can create APIs in Spring Boot. Let's stop the services. Next thing is, we haven't discussed about one of the file present in project, that is application.properties file. This file plays a critical role in Spring Boot application and used for configuration level. So if you want to configure something, this is the file. Okay, so what we can do here, before doing any change, let's get some idea um, from its official documentation, obviously. So the file name is application properties. Okay, I'll do the same. I'll just say Spring Boot. There it is. So we are in official documentation of Spring framework, Spring Boot, I mean, and on left side you can see the list or possible properties and their description. So you can see you can see this the bar or the drag. You can see the small icon. So these many properties are possible in Spring Boot application. Again, there's a list, means lots of properties you can add. And we know by default when we run our Spring Boot application, it runs on 8080 port. So if I want to switch or want to change it by any means, maybe some other services are using the same port on that machine, and I want to change that port, server port. By default, it runs on 8080. So I can also do that by configuring something here on application properties. So let me search something here. So it's port or dot port. There it is. It says server dot port, server HTTP port. By default, it is 8080. So I'll just copy this, paste it, and let's say I'm just giving a random number, just random number. I'm expecting this port should be empty on my Windows machine. I just save the file, always save, and let's run this application. Okay, scroll left side, and I can see Tomcat started on port 7894 on default path. Okay, so if I try to execute this API again, it should get failed. Requested. What it says? Could not send request. Connect something something on local host, that is 127.0.0.1. Port is 80. Yeah, because I'm sending my request on 8080. There's no port, or Spring Boot application is not running on 8080. It is something on 7894. So let's change it to 7894. Oops, my bad. 7894. Let's hit this again. And yes, I'm getting request 200, and it should be on console. There it is. So this is just an example. So just by writing this, you can see you can change the server port. Okay, for now let's terminate, because otherwise my other APIs will get broken down. So we should have a screenshot what we just did here. We're talking about application small a dot is file. So I did that. Oops, I close the service. Let's run this again. and I can see a port is changed for my server. Okay, simple enough. Likewise, we have other properties as well. Think what you have to connect your application with database. So what do you have to do? Again, certain properties you have to add, then you can do that easily. It will be much easier in as compared to Hibernate. So let's do that. So that's our today's agenda. We will try to connect our application with database. So MySQL DB config for Spring Boot app. So obviously it goes in application properties file. So what you can do, you can search it in on web or maybe some other projects you have. So I'll open a new previous project I have, and from there I'll take these properties, and if you want you guys can, I mean, let's suppose I'm not sure where to use it, so I'll say MySQL application dot properties in Spring Boot. So I just open again the official document of Spring, and if I scroll down I can see, just open the properties file, don't worry about the code, just ignore that code. There it is. Spring JP Hibernate update Spring data source JDBC something, then database user, then password, then driver class, and the show SQL true. We have seen all these properties in MySQL database connection when we were doing JDBC API. We saw it in servlet collection, servlet database connection, and then in Hibernate as well. So you can copy this and paste it, or you can open a previous project. So I'll opening a previous project, so that will have some default values, otherwise I have to configure lots of stuff, but that's how it looks like. Where's my SQL? Okay, so you have to write these codes. So most of the thing remains same. Let me rearrange it. This is for Hibernate, this is its driver, and that's how it looks. So driver name, URL, database username, password, and Hibernate configurations. Okay, so let me open previous project, Spring Boot properties file. There it is. Okay, copied, closed. We don't need this anymore, and paste it. Fine. Let's change the database. Close all. So we were using this database. What we have here? Okay, multiple entries. That's fine. 2025 Jan batch. Batch. Okay, so database name is done, and everything is same now. We have a true update and database driver, my username and password for database. Okay, let's stop the service. Once you're done with this, always run your code before writing any Java code. Once you have a configuration ready, cross check whether it's running or not. And let me make it by default 8080. Okay, let's run and see what's the impact of it. Okay, and I can see everything's fine. Now, configuration file is fine. Let me copy this and put in paint image. So I'll say step 1 is done. Next thing is, since we are trying to connect with the database, we would be needing its jar file, right? Without it you cannot work. Step, actually it should be step 2, adding db configs. Step 1 should be adding that library in our project. Okay, so let's do step 1, add dependency. Okay, so how to do that? Again, you can either search for Google for it, or you can search for my dependency, or now we have a better option. What I'll do, I'll go for spring.io, the again that official website of Spring Initializer, and here I'll add one library, MySQL. Okay, I did that. After adding the dependency, I'm just telling you how to get library for Spring Boot application. Once you have this website, click on Explore, and we have POM file. It's my bad. I forgot to change it to Maven project. Now explore again. POM file is here. And if I scroll, I can see the dependency. It doesn't say any version. So yeah, that's fine with me. I'll copy it. It's copied. Going back to properties file. Scroll. Opening its POM file. This is a dependency for web. Added some more dependencies. Okay, this is done. Fine. Let's run this code again to verify we do we have any error when we execute application. So build is important. Not this one. This one. Oh. Okay. So started the application. Everything's fine. It's on 8080. So all good so far. So what was the very first thing when we are dealing with Hibernate? We have to create entity, right? So that you have to do. Uh, let's fill this step, the dependency tag. The step one takes libraries. Copy again. Okay. Okay. Fine. This is all about MySQL integration. Okay. Fine. So this is what we're up to. We have to implement the integration between MySQL and Spring Boot application. So step one is done. Step two is done. Let's put them in boxes. This is done. This is done. Now, next step is creating that entity class. So we will have a reference in database, and then we'll perform all the database operation on it. Okay, so we have to create entity class. That is step three. Step three. Okay, so let me check what classes we have. Travel, vehicle, passport. Okay, let's create a simple class. Let's say laptop or something. So right now I'm not taking any what do you call standard to create it. I'll write most of the thing in one file maybe, just to show you how to perform CRUD operations. Maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow we will like write better code, or we will enhance our coding. Okay, so we need a package. I'll create this inside the root package, that is com.cloud packages here. I'll say entity. Okay, done. And oh, I just realized we don't have JPA library, right? So I'll go back to my web page again. Not a big thing. I can ask it here. I'll say JPA. There it is. So I need this library as well. Explore. And if I scroll down, I should see this dependency, the Spring Boot data JPA. So we are not using Hibernate this time. We are using Spring Boot data JPA. It's similar to Hibernate for now. At this stage, you can see, yeah, it's similar to that. Okay, paste it. Then code format. So if it is done here, so I need to modify step one. Okay, cut, delete, paste it again, copy it and then paste it again. Okay, and there we go. Okay, fine. So we have the third library ready, JPA. Why we need this library? Because ultimately we have to use some annotations. So entity package is here. I'll create a Java class. Oops, not enough. Uh, right click, new Java class. I'll call this laptop. Okay, and private int id. ID is must. Without it, you cannot move further. Then string. Let's say brand. Brand is fine. Brand. Then let's have value. Um, let's say long the price, the amount. Okay, three fields are ready. We need to generate its getter setters. Okay, this is also ready. Let's mark it. Right now it's just a Pojo class. We have to mark it entity. Entity, then at ID, then let's auto generate it. We know it by using generated value. Then pick the strategy. It's going to be identity. Done. So the basics are done to create any endpoint. And good thing is in Hibernate we have to register this endpoint somewhere. Sorry, not endpoint, entity somewhere. But it's good here. You don't need to do all that. Okay, it is done. And just to for now, I'm just thinking. Um, for now, what we call this, whatever entity you create, I'll explain you later. But today, whatever entity class you will create, you have to create its counter class as a VO, value object or view object. So we have laptop. I'll create one class which will be known as laptop VU. Why? We will see later. So I'll copy it for now. And okay, let's run this code. Then we will see the error. Then we'll add it. For now, we have to always create its VO classes or DTO classes. VO or DTO, data transfer objects. Multiple names are given. So VO is fine. View object or value object. Okay, so our entity class is ready. I'll take this code, paste on it. So step 3 is done. Create one entity class. Font is getting big. Paste it. Let's make it 10. Should be good now. Okay, so this class is ready with fifth image. Now we will create a controller which will perform all CRUD operations on this laptop class. Okay, so going back to the project, we have a controller package already, and I'll create a new class, new Java class. I'll call this laptop controller. As I said, if you have any endpoint, make sure that your class name should end with controller. Name it anything. And usually the name we give starts with your entity name and then controller as a prefix, suffix. Okay, now since we are going to add an annotations, endpoint here should be rest controller. Rest controller. Then we have to create methods. So first method is, let's say, public void. We have already done get method multiple times, so I'll start with post request. So I'll say void, I'll call it save laptop. Method name could be anything, it should be meaningful, so I'm calling it. Name doesn't matter here, but yeah, as a developer you should give a meaningful name. And for now I just want to verify whether it's called or not. Save laptop is called. Okay, and we have to mark it with post mapping. We are done with the get mapping multiple time. So post mapping, and we already know we can put a slash, it will work, but that's not a best way. We cannot just write anything on root level. Root means localhost 8080 and that's it. That's root level. So I want to go with at least with something. So I'll say laptops, because we know at least for default types, if we have a 4 different CRUD types, this doesn't matter what you're typing here. This matters, and if we have both things together, so that's a better way. So I'm calling it laptops. And guys, this is one critical thing here. I'm talking about naming conventions. If you're giving any REST endpoint name, it should always in a plural way. Laptops, users, employees, students, teachers, books, whatever you think of, it should be in plural way, not a singular. Like not laptop, it should be always laptops. Again, some conventions. So, so I'm using laptops. Okay, it is saved. Let's stop the service. It's running already. Okay, so endpoint is ready, and let's see what happens when we run this code. Executed, and I can see one create query, create table laptop. Nice. It's my class name, laptop, and it gets created with everything what we have. If I go back to database, refresh, yep, laptop table is here. I can see ID, brand, price. Nice. We don't have any data yet. We have to enter the data. Now here comes the critical thing. How we can request post or how we can write something in post so it will understand what we are sending, and then it will convert that into some Java object and that will get saved. Okay, so the next class in our image. So what we done so far, we have created entity class. Next class, I just actually skipped one part. Now I'm going to cover that. Step 4, which says create a repo class for the entity. So right now, what's our entity class name? Laptop. So if I have to create a repo class, I'm giving you name example. So it could be, it should be, not could, it should be laptop repo repository. Okay, that should be the name of your class. If reverse I did. If it is user, so the name of that repository should be user repository, like we have controller. So everything will revolve around the entity you have created. Repo name example. Okay, I hope it makes sense. Fine. So in our case, it's laptop repository, and this is going to be actually an interface. Create a repo interface, not a class interface. Okay, so going back, and I'm going to create a new package. I'll call this repository. There it is. Then on right click on the new package, new and interface, and we call this laptop repository. Done. And here comes the interface. Since it's just an empty interface, and but how do we know that it is connected with our class for laptop class? Right now, just name doesn't make any sense, so we have to write something. So Spring Boot knows this interface is all about laptop entity, so we'll create this bracket, we'll write laptop mm, laptop comma the primary key it has. So primary key type is int, so I'll write integer. Okay, and here we'll say extends JPA repository. Let's do it there because we are extending something. So it's better to write it here. Extends. Okay, fine. So what we just did, we extended one Spring Framework class. Name is JPA repository. This class is responsible for giving you lots of inbuilt methods. Repository. You can check its documentation. Let's do this together. Java doc. There it is. So what does it do? JPA specific action repository and it's not saying anything here. Okay, just a list of methods. But okay, I'm just telling you right now. We don't have any much details about it on its documentation page. So it provides all uh, ready-made CRUD operation methods. Yep. So you don't have to write anything by yourself. Like in Hibernate, we have that session, and from that session you can call session.save, session.get, session.delete. Same way, if you have to get those functionality, you have to use this JP repository. And where we use that? On this interface, laptop repository. And there we have explicitly mentioned that this class is all about laptop interface. Okay, so one more thing you have to mention, like on controller, we have to tell this explicitly that this class will hold all the endpoints. We have to tell this to Spring Boot that this class is responsible for all database operations. So here we will say add repository. Annotation is must. Without it, your application won't work. So Spring Boot is all about annotations most of the time. Okay, so this interface is also done. Let's copy it and paste it in paint image. So our next step is also done. Okay, done. Sixth image is the note. This is repo name examples. Move a little bit left, right, and done. Fine. So we have a repo ready. Next step is controller. Again, I'm repeating, we are not doing it properly. Just showing you how to perform CRUD operations. So step 6 is, I think it's 5. Yeah, step 5 is create a controller that we are already working on. So we will work on this image later. Let's save it. Okay, so it is talking about the last step is creating a controller. There it is. So we have a controller ready, laptop controller, and that's the mapping. Let's run the application and check what it says. No issue, no error, properly running on port 8080 port, and the endpoint is laptops. So let's refactor. It's now 8080. 8080. Request sent. It says method not allowed. Why? Because method is post. That's correct. Request again. Status 200. And if I check logs, save laptop is called. Okay, so our endpoint is working fine. It can be called from the tool. Great. Let's stop it because we have to write some logic inside it. Okay, so the idea is we have to save record. We already know how JSON works, how JSON data can be converted into a Java class, or how Java object can be converted into a JSON object. So right now, if you notice, we already have a class, laptop class, right? This laptop class. So what I can do, I can take this class as a starting point, and I know when we are saving this laptop, I don't need to send ID. Just brand and price is enough to save the data because ID gets auto generated. So somehow I have to send this laptop data to this controller here from the postman. So it says laptop, and if you see how to send that body from your request, we have a body tab here. Go here and then select row. Guys, notice here post, then your endpoint, and post always needs a request body. Request body goes here, request header goes here. We will talk about header later, but for now request body goes inside here. So body, what's my type? Raw. Once you select raw, we have option what kind of data. So I'll say JSON. Okay, cool. Now I'll create a JSON structure as we already aware about how it looks like. So I'll do what? I'll go back to my entity class. ID not required. I need to send only brand. So I'll copy this brand. So there should be no error mistake. Brand something, and I'll say Mac. Next, price there, and since it's a integer type, I don't need to pass, I mean long type integer, it's same. It's a number at the end, so we don't need to type it in double quotes. I can just pass, that's it. So what I just did, I gave a JSON body which matches with my class structure, and when I send, it should it means the endpoint should understand that my request has a request body. It should get entertained by it. Okay, let's send the data. Oh, we have a service done, I guess. Let's run this code again. So basically, we're trying to send data from Postman to the REST, this REST application or the Spring Boot application. Spring app is up. Let's clear this out to see if we get any error or what. Request sent. Set 200 clear, and it says save laptop is called. So how to verify that this data or detail is passed from you know uh, this Postman to application? We need to print it, but we're not getting it. So how to make this endpoint understand that just by writing endpoint name is not sufficient. You have to understand or take the request body as well. So that's how we get request body. Add request body. What's the type of request body? It's laptop type. I'm the developer and I know I'm sending laptop object, laptop. And now I should get that data here as well. So I don't have any toString yet. So let's have toString method so I can print all the details right away. Okay, we can generate toString method as well. It's done. Let's stop the service and let's print on controller. Well, again, sys out laptop and plus laptop. Whatever coming in the argument, I'm printing it. Okay, and let's see whether we are able to see that data which is sent from Postman or not. So it is up. Great. Let's clear the console. Going to Postman. Request sent. Okay, it's 200. And yes, it's working. I can see laptop has ID, brand Mac, price is 1500. So we are successful in sending data from Postman to the API or the backend code. How it's possible? All because of that request body. So that's how we send data from endpoint. Think about, you cannot send this request body in your browser. That's why we are using this REST client or the software which has some more features or functionalities. Great, it's working. Now, how to save this data in database? So for that, we will use one functionality, the auto wire functionality, which is actually a what do you call that, instantiation of a class. Spring has a nice functionality. We call this Spring can create instance. Not Spring, actually, it's a Spring container. It's like a server for us. Spring container can create instance or object when we are auto wiring the classes. The condition is auto wiring. Yeah, the only condition is, this is important, guys. Condition that class must be marked with stereotype annotation. Okay, stereotype annotation. So what is this in stereotype annotation? Like controller service repository. Oops, what I'm typing. Okay, so these are the annotation. If you mark any class with these annotations, the class is not supposed to create an instance. Spring container can create its instance. We copy it and paste it here as well as a note. Do we have space? No space. Wait. Okay, so that's important point, guys. You should know that's how we do this thing. So if you notice, our classes, the actual class, control class is marked with controller, the rest controller, repository is marked with add repository. So that means I can instantiate that class as well. So what I'll do, I'll write private laptop repository and then create its reference and mark it with at autowired. That's it. And then I'll say laptop repository dot save. If you remember, guys, when we were doing Hibernate, it was the same functionality. Save method needs object, and we are getting that object from here. I'll pass it from here to save method, and it's good. So if you understood Hibernate functionality, when we were doing save method or any functionality, it was always needing an object. Only in case of save, it is not supposed to if you are auto generating it. But for other functionalities, you need object, and object should have ID. And here we are saving it, so ID gets auto generated. So let's see, will this work or not, or we need to do anything else extra about it. So okay, let's run the code again. This time after printing, we are trying to call save. That's it. If everything was fine, we should see this record in database. Okay, service is up. Let's clear the console. Going to send this data again. Request sent. It says 200. Okay, nice. Let's say console. Okay, I can see a query. Insert into laptop. Cool. Let's verify database. This is laptop. Highlight and execute. And yep, I can see IT is auto generated. Brand is Mac. Price is 1500. Nice. Can I try one more time? Let's say um, tell. Okay. Oops, not this way. Request sent again. I can see 200. Okay. One more insert query. That's the details. And in database, I can refresh. Yes. So my post request is working fine. I can see everything's working. Okay, but one thing is bothering me on Postman. It is not showing anything at least here. I want every time my record is getting inserted in database, so I want that in my response as well. Okay, that's the idea. If anything goes in database, I should get everything. When we are creating record, we are not supposed to pass ID because ID is auto-generated. So when we return, at least I can see for this record, for Dell record, what's the ID of it. Okay, so let's do one change. I'll change from void to the laptop class itself. And save method returns as that object. So I'll say return and done. Nice. Same method of Spring Boot returns a object, the same entity object, and I'm running it laptop object. Okay, so I did that change. Need to start the service. Let's see how it looks like. So when we send one record, it should get saved, and we should also get the response in the same object with the ID. So let's change it to HP. Okay, some random amount. Clear. Request sent. And yep, see my response got changed. Now I can see ID because ID is auto generated and I'm getting it in my response. Nice. And if we check database, ID is 3 here. Okay, so now we are able to successfully execute post request. What about get? Get is really simple. I'll say get public, get laptop. I don't need to give anything in terms of arguments. I can simply say get mapping, and again its endpoint remains same, laptops, because it doesn't matter, it's a different type, laptops. And here return type would be laptop object. Okay, sorry, I forgot one thing, because see guys, again you have option, either you can go for query parameter or path variable. My preference is path variable because that's quite easy to understand or easy to maintain. inquiry parameter I have to maintain key and value. So most of the time developer don't like it, and even I don't like it. I will use path variables. So it's easy to use, just path variable, int id and done. Now I'll use laptop repository, the same object which gives, and you can guys again notice here, laptop repository is empty. All methods are coming from JP repository method. Let me give you idea. Open this interface. You can see JP repository and it contains multiple methods, save, flush, save and all. There's one interface which it extends list CRUD repository, and this interface CRUD repository, and if you open this you can see all the CRUD related methods. Save, save all, exist, find all. We will use this find all by ID and so on. So you can always open these classes and documentation, and you can see its documentation. And how we are getting this documentation? Again, because of Maven. Because when Maven downloads these jar files, it also downloads its source code. So that's a good tool. If you want to see any source code of any code or any method, you can always put that in a Maven library. It will give you a whole bunch of documentation. Okay, and here I'm looking for one method, find by ID, and the ID is here. And if we get that, I think it returns something else, some optional. Yep. Here is a catch. If you're looking for find by ID, it will give you a optional object. It's nothing. It just keep track of null values. Maybe you will encounter some null values. So you have to write optional and the class laptop and then op laptop, optional laptop. And once we have this, I can verify if op laptop dot is empty. For now, we don't have any mechanism. I'll simply say system out, or yeah, for now user ID not found. I don't have any other mechanism as per my understanding. I am still in the first class of creating all these APIs. Okay, and else if it is there, so what should it do? I'll fetch that data laptop dot get if it is there, and I'll initialize my object laptop, and let's fetch it outside, else I'll get the error. Okay, and at the end I'll return that laptop. So either that will be null or it will have data. So what I just did, I get the ID from request, I'll send it from postman, it goes in database. So line 35 will go in database and fetch the record of user by its ID, and I just initialize a variable with null. If it is empty, that means ID is not there in database, it will print user ID not found and nothing happens, and it goes to return laptop and blank or null laptop gets returned. Else if ID is there, so this our OP laptop will get that data which is of laptop type or our entity object type, and this gets initialized here, and then at the end it turns laptop object. Okay, so this is done. Let's see, stop the server, stop it, clear. Okay, executing again with new API changes, that is laptops slash ID. It is executing now. Everything remains same, or I can do one thing, I can copy it. I don't know, let's suppose I don't want to change it, so you can always create a new tab. That's it, I copied it already and I want to look for ID of 1. That's it, and if I send, yep, I can see record is there. ID 2, request send, yep, it's there. ID 3, yep, it is also there. What if I search for 300? It's not there obviously. When I send, I get nothing, just blank, and here at the end it should say user ID not found. We don't know any mechanism to print that message or any something meaningful. So the code is calling this API. We'll get understand, okay, that record you're looking for is not there. But for now we are good with this message. Okay, so get is working. Let's try. Um, I want to search all employees or laptops here. Why I'm saying lap employees. Okay, so I want to search for all details. So all means it's a list of data. So I'll say list of laptop type. It is not imported. Now it is imported. Laptop and say get all laptops. Okay, it doesn't need any argument. Just get will be enough. And how it will different from the above get, because it takes ID. This won't take any ID. It's just laptops. That's it. And here we have a method find all. So I'll say laptop repository. We just saw that find all method, and I'll say find all simple, and I'll say return. You guys can see just one thing, I mean one line, and everything is done. Find all will return everything, because Spring Boot has all that precise code, so you don't have to anything. At least as of now, we don't need to write anything like this. Okay, so changes are done. Let's see if I hit this endpoint, will I get all laptops in my details or not in my response. So restarting the server. Okay, started. Let's go to Postman. I'll copy this. I'll create new endpoint box. I don't need ID, just this. Get request is here. Request sent. And yes, see, that's how response will come up. It's a collection, so it starts with square bracket. Then every object is of every element of collection is object type. So curly brace, first object, second object, and third object. So that's how find all function works. So we are done with the last stage of that integration. We have successfully executed all endpoints from our Postman. Okay, come on. Okay, there it goes. I don't need these lines here. So remove. We do one thing. Okay. Better now. Okay, so the code is ready, and we have seen how to deal it or how to execute from Postman. So this was new, so I can take this as my screenshot. It paint paste. So this was the endpoint. Save. Then that's how we requested it. And finally, when it comes to response, go away. It's not going. Leave it. So this is my response. And we can verify that's how it looks in database. Okay, so that's it for today. What you guys have to do, APIs are left, so you guys have to practice giving homework here. So complete remaining endpoints. So get is done, get ID and get this. So write put request, put for laptop, see how you can send it. Just giving you a hint, don't send sorry, not actually send ID in your request. It's not don't, it's actually send ID in Postman request body, because how would it know that which one? So you need to pass ID. Same way delete, you need to call this delete, and oh, okay, Send ID in Postman this time in request URL. So up to you. Either you can go for request parameters or path variables. Completely optional, guys. It is totally up to the developer what they like, and then you use it. Unless somebody is specific and they want to use only that one, so go for it. Okay, so that's for today. Any question, doubt you guys can ask.